Hi, everyone, and thank you for sitting with us again. And we are Negros of Thrones. I'm Nick Sykes.
I'm Jack Fuller.
And we're bringing you something different. We're doing our Game of Thrones, The House of Dragons review and recap, just to switch it up and do something like a little bit fun. So we're gonna recap the first episode of the new series on HBO Max. And we're gonna get like right into it. The first episode opens up. We get like a little brief history about where we are and what time period we are in the kingdom. So this is 172 years before the Mad King passes away and Daenerys is born. And the first scene opens up with them with the old King Jaehaerys trying to pick an heir. So there's like 14 people that it could possibly be, but it comes down to his oldest daughter and his oldest male heir, which is his nephew. And of course,
they pick a nephew.
They go with the man.
Mm-hmm.
And Rhaenys is like left to go about her business with her black husband. Right. And our story begins. Open it up. What do you like? So like the show opens up with what is the king's name?
Viserys.
Viserys's daughter flying in on Dragon Brack, Rhaena, and she goes and gets off the dragon, and her lady in waiting, which is the King of the Hand's daughter, Alicent,
Hand of the King's daughter,
greets her and is like, "Oh, like we can see too," and she's like, she's happy like, being a spectator.
Yeah, like I'll observe. You got it, girl.
I'm cool. Like, but I'm glad the show opened up like we got little dragons because like what is Game of Thrones without the dragons?
Right, and then you're gonna call it House of Dragons and not show a dragon within the first 15 minutes. That would be weird. So yeah, so they talk quickly about like what's going on. Then they go. Then the girl goes to visit her mother, Emma, spelled Aemma.
Pregnant as all hell.
Super pregnant.
Like, did you sleep? As much as I can
right.
with this big old baby in my belly.
And she's like trying to take care of her mother, and her mother goes, well, I don't need to be mothered. And she's like, bitch.
Yes,
she's like, everybody is taking care of the baby. Who's taking care of you?
And then her mother explains to her, like, we're like highborn women, so we're basically baby factories. She says something like childbearing is our battlefield, right, or something like that. And like Rhaenys is like, I'd rather be a knight. I'm not Rhaenys, Rhaenyra.
Whatever her name is. Rhaenyra. She's like, I'd rather fight. Like, she wants to fight instead of give birth. And I mean, she's witnessed a lot of madness from her mother giving birth. Like, she's witnessed all of the turmoil. She's like, with a sword in my hand, I have more control,
Which is true tea.
It's fact.
that is his act.
Yeah.
And she goes to the council meeting. I feel like it's called the Privy Council, but I might be thinking that from another show. Mm. But I think like the High Council of Westeros is the Privy Council. And her father's like, why are you late? Oh, I went to go see mom.
And he sniffs her. They both smell her.
They both smell her. Like, on Dragonback. Right. And that made me think about like how bad like dragons must stink.
I mean, they're humongous, and there's literally fire within them. I'm sure that they radiate a pretty intense smell.
Come in smelling like charcoal and flesh.
Yeah.
So the story, like, so we continue on. They're talking about in the council meeting, the king's brother and the city watch, Daemon, and how like he needs to be like more responsible, like. And
they're like, why is he not in these meetings? Like, what's tea? He needs to speak for what it is that he's doing with the city watch.
And the king is like, all right. Like, yeah, like I'm sure that like he's doing what he's like supposed to be doing.
Right. And he essentially is like, have y'all heard anything from him? No. Has he caused any trouble lately? No. is he bothering y'all? No. He's like, so we did right, apparently, because we learned later that they for the most part don't like him, don't trust him. He's unreliable. He's like a maverick, right? So he says in a very PC way, well, we finally got rid of him. You know what I'm saying? To some respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we finally like got him in a level of check where he's not bothering us. So like pick your battles, you know?
And then one of the king's men whispers to Rhaena that he's like her uncle Damon is here. So she goes down to the throne room to meet him, and he's there sitting on the Iron Throne.
Treason. Just treason, straight up.
He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm sitting," and she's like, "Oh God." And he gives her this necklace that's made from Valerian steel.
Valerian steel. The steel of all steels.
Steel forged from dragon fire.
Mm-hmm. Mind you, they spend the first half of their meeting speaking High Valerian in the first place. Right. And when they transition to English, it's like, okay, like, you know, they're transitioning into English and they're just like talking shit for the most part. And
there's a little sexual tension going on. There's a little romantic from both of energy. Them. Yeah.
It's weird. But also the Targaryens are inbred, so it wouldn't be unlike them.
White hair, the house down boots. Mm-hmm. But that lace
his lace front
was plucked for the god.
Yeah, his lace front is not a joke.
I was saying earlier, I was like, I wonder if they had to like shave his head to get like the lace, like that 360 lace so clean. But whoever is like in the wigs and prop department like did their job.
They did that, yeah.
They really did that.
So yeah, he gives her this necklace that's made of Valerian steel. Apparently, it's the same steel of one of his weapons called Dark Sister. And then he calls her beautiful in High Valerian again. And then next scene, the council is preparing for this tournament. It's a jousting tournament to celebrate the coming of the new heir, which they're jumping the gun on multiple accounts. This is, you know what I'm saying, are they going to live? Your wife has had mad stillbirths and mad, you know what I'm saying, miscarriages.
All in the past 10 years.
You know, that's a really tight schedule to have all of those things happen. And to come out of going through all of that, to then make a celebration, a preemptive celebration, is a bit like ridiculous, right? But he does it anyway.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, the tournament's going to take a week. Within that, by the end of that week, my kid's going to be born. Like, she's close to giving birth anyway.
Right.
Meanwhile, the king has this like lesion on his back that's like pustulous,
right,
from sitting on the throne, and they fitting to like cauterize it. So I'm like,
there's just a lot going on.
And you know, like when people get like diseases or sicknesses in Game of Thrones, it's only a matter of time before
weeks.
Okay. Them septums don't know how to heal shit.
Right. So they hit the tourney, right? Am I missing anything?
Before the tournament, like he goes and sits with the queen, like she's in the tub. He's like, every time I see you, always in the tub. And he's like, I'm fucking pregnant. This is the only way I get a little fucking relief.
Right.
And she looks him dead in the eye and is like, listen, I ain't having no more babies.
Never again.
2 miscarriages, 2 stillbirths, all like within the span of 10 years.
It's literally too much on the body and the fucking emotions. Like, it's too much. That's just too much.
And even from the opening scene, like looking at her, I was like, bitch, you gonna die in childbirth.
Yeah.
Like I could see like you already haggard and you ain't nothing but 35.
Right. And she knew it. Seriously. So the tourney is happening finally. They're setting up the jousting stuff and whatever have you. They do a few preliminary jousts just to get the energy going. One dude comes and asks Rhaenys for her favor, because then when you in a jousting tournament, you after your first win, you can go to the royal court and request one of the ladies' favor.
And he calls her the queen that never was. There's some little like looks of like shade. She's like smiles from ear to ear.
Right. puts her wreath on his thing, and she says, "Good luck." And she said, if I needed it, I would accept it," and then loses.
In the second round.
So,
and then it's the king's brother Damon against the right hand to the king's son, and he washes Damon, had him like sliding across the rails. I thought he was going to be dead. I was like, damn, he's dead, and he didn't even make it into the first 25 minutes.
no.
But he just falls off the horse and he's all right. But then he goes to like wash him.
Yeah, they go.
Oh yeah, somebody else got their head dashed in
So
too.
before Damon even comes onto the scene, there's a few more jousts that happen. This dude loses a joust, gets mad, pulls a man off the horse, his opponent off the horse, and starts swinging at him with an axe. Suddenly, the fights just break out. Everybody's fighting, and a few people are now dead. A few knights are dead, and jousting is an extremely skill. Like, people don't think it has anything to do with skill.
I said that.
Jousting, and you're not the only person to think that. Jousting is an extremely skilled sport. There's a lot of math involved. There's a lot of you have to have a combination of resolve. You got to know your physics enough as a warrior. It's not necessarily that you got to know the equations or whatever, but like when you're a martial artist, there's certain levels of like geometry and physics that you learn, right? And just in your body, and you have. And then you have to understand velocity, force. You got to know how long your jousting, your lance is. There's a lot of shit going on. And then if you get hit, you have to protect yourself after the hit. Protecting yourself before the hit is like, okay, your shield is up. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to go for the shield. You know what I'm saying? In the first place,
no one was
going for the shield. Your shield is up, but nonetheless, like falling off a horse at all is crazy. So when you're falling off a horse because of some blunt force trauma, right, you got to really pay attention. In armor, right, you got to really pay attention to how you're falling, and all of those things have to like come together at once.
Hitting the ground in armor on a fucking horse,
off a horse, is what I'm saying. That shit is a lot. The dude that well, it's coming up because Damon did that shit. So my thing is, jousting is there's so much going on, right? Like, jousting is a lot more intense in the mind than a regular fight. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's so much going on. I couldn't believe, and I believe it after seeing it, but in my research and in knowing certain medieval shit and whatever have you, the idea that somebody would then come see you after they lost the joust in the middle of the tournament, there's coming to see you in the locker room. You know what I'm saying? There's coming to see you in the parking lot, but coming to see you right now and killing you for winning. The levels. Like, I was taken aback. I was like, oh my God, he don't got a face no more. And all he did was do what he was supposed to do, which was win the joust, right? So shit was crazy. Too many people died. There was a lot of like random disembowelments. It was a lot, right? So
you know what?
That's next. Oh wait, no, that's next. You thinking about the city watch?
That happened before the tournament started.
Oh right,
yeah, we skipped the part. So like, rewind. So before the city joust, Damon takes out the city watch for basically a crime cleanup / killing spree.
Right.
They cutting off hands. They cutting off feet. They cutting
off ball sacks. Yeah.
Cutting off a raper.
Yeah, they called out a raper and literally took his time cutting his balls off. We were sitting there watching this white man's ass for 10 whole seconds. It don't take that much. It don't take that much. You could have literally stretched this shit and said ha and called it a day, but no, you wanted to like go around, like you wanted to make incisions. Like,
at first, I thought they cut out his asshole because of how long they was taking it. Like, he's like, no, that's Jack. Like, no, that's the scrotum.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And then they call him in. It was like, what the hell was that?
Right.
Like, y'all needed a 2-horse cart to like drag out all the body parts.
Right.
It was like
severed heads, limbs,
and the king's right hand's reading him fulfilled, and he was like, if you ever left the Red Keep, you would know that it's ghetto out there.
This is the ghetto. It's like y'all want people coming in and potentially getting raped, murdered, stolen from. Like, the black dude was like, "Hey, the people do need to fear the city watch." And it's true. Like, it's essentially the city watch is 5-0. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's Popo right there. And there's a combination of respect and actual fear you should have for the police. If you're in a society that the people don't have morality on their own, you need some force that is going to shock and scare them into doing what the law is and into doing what has been agreed to be morally correct. It's just that simple. And there has to be enough respect between them for people to be able to also come to them when they're in trouble. That's the balance. And we know that that balance is not something that any white people knew how to do.
Meanwhile, David stays in the company of prostitutes.
Right.
We support sex work here at the New Country, so there's no problem with that. But
they do the Lord's work.
So during the tournament, the queen goes into labor, and like the king like rushes off to go see it, and they're like, the baby is breached.
Is breached, yeah.
And there's no way
no turning this baby.
No way to turn it. And one of the scepters is like, well, there is a way that we could get the baby out, but it's gonna kill the mother.
She's gonna die.
Like, they're gonna give her like an old-fashioned
C-section.
And so like he goes to her like, they're gonna take the baby out. He's holding her hand like,
he doesn't even say they're gonna. He doesn't even say take, which was a part of what
he said.
He said bring.
They're gonna bring the baby. Yeah.
Which is some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why, like, whenever I try to have conversations, there's a language thing that I try to like really be strict about in myself and in receiving, because certain things are meant for deception. This is, again, English is a language meant for deception. When she first heard they're going to bring the baby, something in her mind said, oh, the baby's here. She was asleep. You know what I'm saying? She was barely conscious. She was like, oh, the baby's here. Right. They gave her the milk of the poppy. It's like, oh, the baby's here. They're going to bring the baby into my arms. She's been through this before with her daughter. So when you hear they're going to bring the baby out, you think they took the baby to bathe her from the amniotic fluid and that they're going to bring the baby to put her in your arms. Next thing she knows, she getting yanked at the ankles.
They holding her down from both sides.
She's like, what the fuck is going on?
I'm going to make the first decision. They pull out this rusty scalpel.
A hooked knife, yay big, with like all the tetanus on it, right?
All the tetanus.
Tuberculosis down, and gets to slicing. In the meantime, Damon is over in the joust situation. Finally coming up, he picks somebody. He picks his son. The hand to the king's son. He beats him because that wasn't the hand to the king that beat Damon.
Okay.
He picks the hand to the king's son. What he did, and I don't know if they allowed it because he's a prince. This shit in what I've studied in jousting is illegal. He goes for the horse's legs on the first joust, on the second go round. Because what happened was homie did hit
but he didn't knock him off the horse.
Right, he didn't unhorse him. So they go switch other sides and come back. He goes for the horse's legs. The horse goes, in a good motorcycle fashion, face first over. Homie flies, hits his face and entire body onto the ground. They take his fucking helmet off.
The whole side of his face is gone. And I'm wondering too, like, just from like a filming standpoint, did they like actually do that to the horse, or was that CGI? Were any animals harmed
in the making of this episode? Because honestly, like, you don't do that to a horse. That horse could like a horse's legs, though they might be strong enough to hold up a horse and your body, are also really susceptible to breaking. Like, you could break a horse's knee very easily. So like, to do that was disrespect of the highest order. It's illegal, you know what I'm saying? And like, I mean, in terms of the game, and homie's face is gone. Like, he's giving Two-Face realness.
He'll never be pretty again.
And the odds can't be that high. I'm sorry, the stakes cannot be that high in a sport. For me,
and like, why are you wilding for respect and you already a prince? Like, what are you doing?
But like
What
that's
is
the thing in
that?
his mind. He's like, if I lose, then of course like my princeliness is in question and blah 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 blah. Because again,
Mm.
like we said, all they have are names. There was nothing like there was nothing that they had. There was no passed down, nothing that they had. All they wanted to do was gain status because all they had was a name attached to status. That's the only thing legacy wise that have.
When the facts are facting. So they do the cesarean, and guess what? The mother and the baby both
Both of
died.
them died. The
Like it
baby
was
was alive
already
for like 2
breached.
hours.
Like I don't even know if it survived because it was breached for mad
It was
long.
alive.
It
It
was
was
alive.
alive. They like she had a legitimate birth. She carried that baby to term. That baby was born alive.
I didn't hear
The
it cry though, so like that
It
leads me
did.
to believe it
It
did.
did. And Rhaenyra said later that he was born for that he was here for 2 hours.
Okay. The
He was
air
the
for a
heir for a day.
day.
He'd have to have been born to
Yeah.
have been an heir for a day. So yeah.
Cut to the fume. Both the baby and mother are wrapped up on the pike.
Which they try to play you and act like you didn't realize the baby was gonna die because they showed the mother first for mad long, and
Just
then
bled or like
and then you see the baby wrapped up and ready to go too, and you're like, oh fuck yeah, the baby did die. So Damon goes up to Rhaenyra. I'm fucking her name up. That's not her name.
no, it's Rhaenyra.
I feel like there's something in there.
Rhaena.
I don't know. It's one of them.
We'll have it right by the second episode.
Fuck these white people names. So the only and speaking of names, Rhaenys is a white woman with a black man. They could have they did that for apparently their kids are important later, and they were like, okay, they needed like some lead characters to be black.
Right.
They should have just made this bitch named Rhaenys black. Like her name is Rhaenys. How many Rhaenyses y'all know? Y'all know 7 Rhaenyses. I know you do. One of my besties' middle name is Rhaenys.
Yeah, that was some HBO colorblind cast and shit. I'm like, this is how y'all gonna play it?
Yeah. But so she is sitting there. Damon comes up to Rhaenyra, I'm calling her, I guess, and is like, they're waiting on you. And she's like,
it's her mother's dragon, so it's her dragon too.
Right.
And it's like she's like, I really like she's pensive like for a moment.
And what was the conversation she had? She was like saying she was just talking about how like she doesn't know what's going to happen with her father now that like his chance for a son is gone and this that and the third da.
Yeah.
And so then she walks up, looks back at her father, King Viserys, and he's just like staring out into the void that is his wife and infant son. Like, I don't think he it's the kind of thing where you just literally don't see anything else. I don't think he saw the dragon. I don't think he saw the grass. You know what I'm saying? It was just like these bodies floating in a void, because he was staring into like the acting in this motherfucker. Y'all have been acting your ass off in the past 4 years. I don't know if it's because of what happened with everything. Like, okay, like when we were getting sick the last couple years, y'all have really kicked it up. People, you know what I'm saying, the pandemic and having nothing to do, all you could do is study, or like the energy is like, if I don't get a role right now, and then you get it and you're like, ha, and you put your all into it. Or if y'all have just been paying attention to critique, because acting is one of the most openly critiqued art forms and the most agreed upon in that critique. Like, we could argue, y'all have seen it on my page, we could argue till the cows come home who's a better singer, Brandy or Monica, even though, again, technically it's Brandy because of what it means to have the skill of singing, not what it means to have the talent of a voice, right? But nonetheless, we can still argue that till the cows come home because of how y'all understand it colloquially. Everybody, for the most part, gets what it takes to be an actor, even if they don't know how to do it. They just like kind of understand what it takes to be an actor, having experienced it as much as we do. So I think we agree for the most part, if this person's a good actor, if that person's a good actor, this scene was a good scene, and etc. And I think those notes have been taken really hard because I haven't seen no bad acting in a minute. And
wait till Beyonce come back out. Ooh,
it was every other week when I could see a scene that was terrible back in the day. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like, oh, y'all are like doing the I don't know if it's the same director.
No, it's actually not.
That's really impressive because there's a level of subtlety that this new director has managed to capture that the old director definitely imparted into the first couple of seasons of Game of Thrones. And like, Rhaenyra's expressions and her internal life is clear as hell, but it's not extravagant. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's
Like
not
even in the beginning,
boisterous
like when
or
Allison
flamboyant.
asked her, like, are you worried about your position? She's like,
Right.
I'm worried about my father.
My mother.
And then I'm worried about my mother, and I'm worried about like my father. That's all he's wanted. Like
Right.
I'm comfortable, which is good. Like you a princess, like you get all the like the benefits of being a royal
without having the responsibility. Yeah. So she, you know, so here we go. She finally she looks back at her father's. I guess she's waiting for him to look at her or something like that, and she stutters and is struggling to give the Dracarys command
to Cyrax.
And she finally she goes duh, and he goes huh. He's like, you want me to burn something? He was too hyped to get ready to blow that fire. I don't know if anybody else saw that. He was like, what? Dracarys?
I think all dragons are girls.
Oh, okay. He was like, Dracarys? Is that what you was about to say? Just say it, bitch, so I could do it. Right? So then she's finally said it, and then Cyrax walks down all shoulder, right? And, you know, burns them to a crisp.
Right. And the Targaryens have to be burned by cremated by dragon fire because they can't burn. Like we saw that with Game of Thrones and Daenerys, like regular fire.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. So that's the only way to go.
Yep.
And so we cut to
is it brothel time?
Yeah, he was in the brothel. Not much happens there. Like, you know, he's talking to his sex worker boo and like talking about like the air for a day. And she was like, well, like I believe in you. Like,
he had went to the brothel.
Therapy.
He had went to the brothel right after he had went to the brothel before the joust, right? And couldn't perform and couldn't complete it. She was like, "What's wrong?" And she was like, "You're always gonna." She's like, "No, you're the king or whatever have you. Like, you're like, no one's gonna take your place, right?" Which again, nobody wants to talk about the magical properties and aspects of prostitutes.
Sex work therapists, lovers, friends,
like
confidants.
Brujeria. She said that. She was really the only person who thought that, or at least would have said that out her mouth, besides Daemon himself. It was like, no one's going to take your spot as king. And it was true. Right? At least as heir. Right? And that was true. So they go back. He goes back to the brothel. He brings all of the city watch to the brothel. People fucking drinking, everything all around. His favorite prostitute.
Oh yeah, the king finds out like there's a spy in
his favorite prostitute is like, hey, make a speech or whatever have you. He goes to make a speech, and in that speech, we find later from the king's spy that several people have corroborated a story in which he made this speech in celebration of him still being the heir and called the king's dead son the heir for a day.
King calls him in and is like, did you say this?
He's like, whatever do you mean? He's like, nigga, did you say heir for a day? And he was like, hey, he goes, we all grieve in our own ways. Daemon says we all grieve in our own ways. He would have got beheaded right then and there. Like, if it was me, it would have just been over right then and there. Because first of all, your grace asked you a question, and that's not the answer to a question. Did you say it or did you not say it? And if you could be up here and feel obstinate enough to give that as an answer instead of the answer that I asked for, which is a yes or no fucking question, we already have a really big problem. Beyond the fact that what you said about my child, because the level of disrespect that you feel capable of putting towards me while I sit the throne, as you enter the throne room saying you look dressed for conquest, yes, nigga. So you should come correct. And the fact that you didn't come correct, gonna call him weak and all kinds of other shit, beheaded, family or not. Beheaded.
I do feel for Daemon though, because he heard that whole conversation with him in the king's hand.
But he heard the king defend him.
Yeah.
So what are we doing?
But he has to know, like, but the king did say, like, no one likes you but me. Like, no one wants you here.
Right.
And so he sent him away. He was like, back, I don't know if he was at Dragon, so I forget which, like, kingdom is his, like, in the Seven Kingdoms. But he was like, pack your shit, bounce. I don't want to see your face.
Right.
And then
go to your wife.
This is my part. The king's hand, I think his name is Otto, tells Alicent's like, go get the king some comfort. Like, you know, you say nice things, like go Go talk to him. She's like, I wouldn't know what to say. He was like, you don't need to say nothing. Just show him what that mouth do, bitch. Go.
He ain't say all that, but that's essentially what he was trying to give. And he was like, put on your mother's dress.
Right.
That out immediately.
Like,
and that's the proof.
Immediately.
And that's the proof. All they care about is status. He would get nothing for her to have like the child of the king. If she was to birth the king's son and the child would, grow up to be a man and therefore the rightful heir,
he'll be dead by then.
He still don't get nothing. So they're hunting for this invisible thing called status. He wants his family name to have a royal crest attached to it. And that's not going to make him no richer. That's not going to make his legacy any better. But this is the mindset. It's like, we've got to get into the royals, and that's it, right? Because they have set up a society of scarcity.
Everybody want to floss. Everybody want to.
They set up a society of scarcity. There's the people in the dregs that he don't even go see, right? There's the dregs ass niggas that he don't even know about, let alone go see. And then there's the rich people who he only wants to be. He's rich enough to be staying in the castle, but not rich enough not as rich as the king. And he'll never be.
Right. And meanwhile, the king is sitting there working on his model of King's Landing.
Beautiful sculpture.
He's carving by hand. Like, why all the kings in these movies got like some pet I guess you need it, though.
Better, yeah.
You need something to like take your mind off, whether it's like a model training set or something. And he's like carving that whole thing out. And she's just like, all I ever wanted somebody to say to me when my mother died is like, I'm sorry for what happened. And she's like, I'm sorry for what happened to you. And I was like, bitch, you better be ready to bust it wide open.
Okay. He didn't seem interested though.
Because that's his daughter's best friend. I'm glad he seemed disinterested. That's his daughter's best friend. Like, maybe they're like 16, 17, which is of age at that time. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not real, but like.
But I think he's just still too. I think what's going to happen is she's going to most likely go to his room often. Mm-hmm. And then within constantly seeing her, he'll be able to get over the death of his wife enough to then see her as a woman.
Right.
Because right now, I don't think he sees her as a woman. I think he was relatively faithful enough to like not only see his wife in that, in that respect. Right. Now that she's dead, he probably still only sees her in that respect. He didn't even know why she was there. Like, he was like confused. You know what I'm saying? He was like, what's happening? And she said, I just thought I'd check in on you. He was like, oh, thanks. And then she said what Pat said that she said, and then he was like, oh, and you could tell like he relaxed a little bit, but it still doesn't seem like there's a sexual tension because she definitely didn't come in there ready to bust it open. She came in there very timid, you know what I'm saying? So there's no sexual tension there, especially with how palpable the sexual tension is between Rhaenyra and Daemon. Like,
speaking of which, cut to, so now wife dead, baby dead, we got to pick an heir.
Mm-hmm. They have this meeting,
and they are going back and forth, and they're like, it can't be Daemon. Like, it like they're just like, they gave so many different reasons why, mm-hmm. all of the reasons which are valid, and they're like, nah. So like, and then Valor, Valorian, Rhaenys' husband is just like, well, my wife. And like, we already have a son,
right?
And they're like, niggas.
Pretty much that's how they gave him.
Like, there's just like this look that goes across the table.
When he was like, at first he was like, Daemon's the heir. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, y'all want to talk about traditional that? What are we gonna do? And then somebody was like, well, it could always be Rhaenyra. And it was like, okay, Valera, whatever his name is, black guy was like, okay, that's cool or whatever. If y'all wanted somebody older. I think
his name is also Valerian, which is also confusing, but it's not spelled like Valerian. It's spelled like.
I just refuse. I don't care.
You could have done a better job with these names. Because even reading the book, I had to highlight. But anyway.
So he's like, he's like on board with whatever, and they are, they start trying to figure out other things, and he's like, well, my wife, the queen that never was, could be the queen. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about all these things as though Rhaenys is not the shit. She's the shit. And they're like, oh, here you go again, trying to get her up there. And it's like, no, nigga, it was like, wasn't you just on board with Daemon? He's like, look, I'm down for whatever. this is not even my problem. I'll kill you all. This is the thing. Like, I feel like he really like sits there and it's just like, this doesn't even concern me.
Like, this is white people problems.
Like, I'll kill you all. If any, he was like, if any of this like was to actually concern me in a way that was negative, then I'll just kill you all, and that's it. That's the air that he gives. It's like,
he sit up there with his white locks, like, I'm married well. So period. Like, I'm good whatever happens. And they're like, well, the king is like, Rhaenyra, and they're like,
like a few people are like, oh, you're gonna break 100-year tradition. Da, 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 da. If we're talking about keeping and maintaining order, you're gonna break this tradition. And then the Septas, which is I thought was interesting that they were on board with it, was like, I don't see why not. Like, it just can't be Daemon. Like, they was like, it can't be this nigga.
Even in like the GOT like main like stories like have always been like suspicious to me. Yeah, like they seemed war hungry. And I feel like they know that like putting a woman on the throne is gonna break out war, but like their position is gonna remain the same.
But putting Daemon on the throne will do the same.
You think?
Mm-hmm. It might take a little longer because the outrage would be less because they'd expect this man to come in and do whatever. I doubt he'll be benevolent. I feel like he's gonna just continue the shit that he was doing with the City Watch, just with a larger army. You know what I'm saying? And eventually the people gonna rise up. And if not the people, other town, you know what I'm saying, the other cities and shit in Westeros are gonna be like, what the fuck? No. Absolutely not. So it'll be war regardless. But the fact that it'll happen quicker and with the least ability to prepare.
Right.
With Rhaenyra.
So they chose Rhaenyra. And he goes to her, and she's like, huh?
He summons her.
And
down to this room where there's a dragon skull sitting over a bunch of candles.
It's like the catacombs, like where they keep the
it's amazing.
The statues of like their dead and shit. Like we saw it like in the last season of Game of Thrones.
Right.
And she's like, you haven't spoken to me in weeks.
Right.
Like, what do you want? Like, I want you to be queen.
He goes, what does it mean? What does he say? He goes, damn, what did he ask her? He was like, it's important. She was like, what the fuck are you asking me? Essentially, it's like, you haven't spoken to me in weeks and this is what you have to say to me. He was like, it's important. And it was like, it was something like, who are we? Or some shit like that. Like, and her answer, I remember her answer more than I remember the question. She was like, everyone thinks that everyone treats us like we're gods, but we're really not. Like, if we didn't have the dragons, we'd be like everyone else. And then he goes, controlling the dragons is an illusion. He was like, this is some shit that we should have never even ever. And then reveals the prophecy to her about what happens essentially at the end of Game of Thrones.
The Song of Fire and Ice. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh my God, which is manipulative, I feel like, before like she had even like made her decision, like, I'm going to tell you the secret. And she's like, oh, fuck. So I guess it appears like she agrees because she gets coronated.
Right. Except, again, in her life, fucking acting coming to life in subtle ways. She sits there, everyone, pledges their loyalty and allegiance to the king and the new heir. Or the new successor, because at this point, like it's succession, they've been named, right? Heir means that you're just born and like you are one of the people potentially that have the right to succession. Succession is when it's been named and everyone is like, now this is who it is that will take the throne next, right? So they're at the succession coronation. Everybody pledges their allegiance. She turns around, looks at her father. The father says, I name you the successcer, da 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 da, boom, 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 right?
And then fabulous.
She looked great. It was very African inspired, very, very Black Madonna. Mm-hmm. And she turned around, and the look on her face and the way she was breathing, right? And again, it was subtle because I think if the
how many takes, bitch? How many takes?
Right. The level of fear, excitement, anxiety, there was so many things happening and each thing had a place in her body. This is the kind of shit that I just love. I was like, oh my god, like she's breathing anxiously, she's scared out of her mind in her eyes.
Meisner is a house down boots.
OD. These cheeks are excited because they were raised, and then it's like, and then on top of that, she's trying to put on the strong front, right? Which she's strong, clearly. I mean, she's like 12 on a dragon or some shit like that, right? But she's putting on this front of like, okay, like I am here for this authority. I have this. I'm here for this, and she's not ready. She's not ready. If you saw it, go back and look at that face. She is not ready. She's not ready, and that's why I feel like the manipulation thing is real, because like I don't think she got the opportunity to make the choice. When he said it to her, she got excited a little bit because what he said to her was, I've wasted the years in wanting for a son. And that was just like pat pat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ever just like got to hear the thing that you've been wanting to hear from your fucking parent your whole life?
Like, Papa, you love me.
You know what I'm saying? That smacked the shit out of her. She was completely blindsided by that.
She was the cupbearer. Like, she's been at all the privy council.
She knows everything.
Like, she knows. Like, she's already riding on Dragonback alone.
Right, by herself. So, on a dragon that's growing too, like, who knows what dragon puberty is like?
Well, we saw it with Game of Thrones a little bit. They a little like
they get
hungry.
Spicy, yeah.
They get a little Dracarys.
But yeah.
And that's the first episode. We see a little bit of the coming attractions. Like, we're not gonna get into those because like this is a review show.
Right.
But if you have any thoughts, any opinions, make sure you drop down in the comments and let us know like what you thought about this first episode. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here at the Anukai Tree on YouTube and on the Anukai Tree on Facebook and on Instagram. Make sure you check us out on Patreon for like behind the scenes exclusive.
Yep.
We also have a Negros of Thrones YouTube page, which is just that. We'll be posting the videos in both places. So make sure you follow us on Negros of Thrones on YouTube. This was really fun. We're gonna try to keep doing this. We might not be able to get to y'all every week,
yeah. Because niggas is busy, niggas got coin to make, niggas got bills to pay like the rest of y'all.
So we might be combining some episodes. It might be like episode 2 and 3 or 4 and 5 here and there. We don't know how many episodes they're gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how many episodes per season Game of Thrones was. But these are like 45-minute episodes, so maybe they'll do like 10. Might be
I hope
8.
so. I hate that. I hate 8 seasons. I hate eight episode seasons. I think it's. I understand the budget of it, and I understand, like, I get it. So, like, I get it. I'm in the industry, so I get it. But, like, as a consumer of the industry's products, I hate it. It makes y'all rush the endings of seasons. The last 2 episodes be rushed as fuck. Y'all just
like the end of Game of Thrones. We were like, what was this? So y'all better not do that again.
Give us 10. Give us 10 episodes, my nigga. Give us 10 eps, please.
12 if you're nasty.
12 if you're nasty. I have a couple projections. Alicent and Viserys is gonna fuck episode 3, if not at the end of episode 2. Rhaenys and her black husband are going to peep something that says that they should be warning Rhaenyra about something they won't. Rhaenyra is going to learn something else about this prophecy. I'd say like episode 4 that like tells her something either that she has to do, has her understand what her heirs are supposed to do, or something. Like, she's going to get some information about the prophecy that like really defines her successorship, because she's not yet the queen. I don't know if she'll be the queen by episode 4. Who knows? Perhaps maybe that shit that's going to happen that Rhaenys learns has something to do with her father, and then suddenly she'll be a young queen. I didn't read the book.
How long before you think she names Daemon her consort?
Episode 5.
We'll see.
Daemon's going to try to get all in her head the whole time. That's not even a projection. That's like, if you don't think that's going to happen, then you're not paying attention.
And they change things, so like I really can't go by the book. Like like a screenplay is very different than like a novel. Yeah. So we'll see what gets changed and like added on for TV. But we've been Negros of Thrones. And thank you for sitting by the fire with us. And we'll see y'all next week for episode 2.
Every man got a sword and a shield and a knife. Run for the
No, in Westeros. Peace in Westeros.
Look to the left, look to the right.
Kill them all.
That's probably gonna happen anyway.
Give us another red wedding, but like
Oh my God.
the whole town, the entire country.
When the smoke clear, pay a dead body. Yeah, we fight for the king, we die for the king. If a boy say a word, then a straight slave.